the same coating on both sides. The great thing about this particular paper, it's sold in sheets of 8.5 by 11 or ATC size, that this can be used with any product. For example, alcohol inks. Familiar with using alcohol inks, and you normally use it on glossy paper, you can use alcohol ink on this paper. It'll still move and do all the cool things it normally does on glossy, but you're not left with a glossy finish. When it comes to stamping, it stamps with incredible detail. So I'm just going to take my archival ink, and I'm just going to go in and stamp. And I'll just show you the difference, just stamping on, this is just the matte side of paper, just to show you the difference when you're stamping. Huge difference when it comes to details. So for stamping, and that's with really any of the inks that you want to work with, it's going to stamp really nice and crisp. So we go in and draw this. Specialty stamping. It's cool stuff.
Are we going?
The fact that you can color on it, watercolor on it, alcohol ink on it, and you do all sorts of videos on it. Now, do you have to always heat set your image? No, it just has to be dry. So if you were multitasking, like working on this card front and that card front, you can go and come back with the set of this. I'm going to color it right away so I can make sure that it's dry. So when you go to color with distress markers, because they are water-based and reactive with water, the only tool we need to blend them is water. So that was water. So I came up with 2 water brushes for Ranger now. I'm sure many of you have seen water brushes on the market. I've seen them, but I wanted water brushes that was here for the specific purpose of coloring, and especially coloring with distress. So these water brushes have actual bladder control, which means they're not going to release the water until the bristles of the brush actually bend. And I did 2 different tips. The first one, it's called a detail. If you look at it, the point of it is actually a point. It's a detail point. So when you color with it, you can use the detail point, or you can use it like a brush. So when you pick it back up, you can right back to a point. So it's really good for actual watercolor, because you can just use the detail part of it to blend your color instead of using the brush side. But because I wanted to do backgrounds, I also did a flat tip water brush. And this is one I'd not ever seen before. This just gives me nice ability to do big background, big washes of color with my water brush. Or if you were into mixed media and you wanted to do canvas or even larger areas, I developed it so this cap will actually snap off, giving me longer bristles to make bigger brush strokes. It's also great if you want to just clean this out, because this is synthetic, so it's not going to stain. You can just rinse it out. And then when you're ready, you can just feed this through, snap the cap right back on, and you have your flat brush. So, pretty user-friendly. So we're going to go in and we're going to color this. I'm going to work with the tips of the pen. Now, the marker has dual tip. It's got a brush tip on one side, a fine point on the other. The brush tip is really cool because you can use the side of it. It's a flexible, kind of spongy brush, so I can use the tip of it, or I can go wider than that. But the other tip that is fine is a plastic tip, which means unlike most markers, it's never going to fray. So it will always stay detailed. So you can use it for journaling, you can use it for whatever, and the point will always stay fine. So I really like it if you're going to do outlines, do stencils, do anything, and now you have it in the same matching color as distress ink. So how do we color with it? Well, I'm just going to go in and just add some color. I'm just going to kind of go at it with whatever colors I want. Add a little bit of color here, a little bit of color there. I can go in and throw in some additional color. And you never have to worry about the ink pens contaminating the paper, because once you run it through a color, it will always go back to its original color. But I never clean my pens this way, because that's wasting ink. All you have to do is scribble it on the craft sheet, right into itself, and you see it wick back up into the pen. But the tip is clean. So that's just to show people, because they won't believe me when you say clean itself out. So instead, if I mix the color, I'll just go on the craft sheet, and I'll just keep drawing until it goes right back in the pen, and I didn't waste any of my ink. That is not nice. Yeah. Okay. When I want to blend this, well, you have some options. You can either continue to color with the pens and layer in there, or I can go with my water brush and just pick that color and actually blend that right out. Blend it right into itself. It always will be reactive. These will never, ever be permanent. So you have unlimited open time when it comes to working with it. So I can go back in if I want to fade that out even more, create a watercolor aspect around there. It will always react with water. I can also pick up colors. So if I didn't want to go in with the marker, but I wanted to add some, I can just swipe a little bit on the craft sheet, pick up color, and go in and introduce color if I wanted it to blend. Or I could go directly onto the surface and say, yeah, I want to go back and add a little bit more punch of yellow. I want to go in and add a little bit of green onto the body of that. Maybe I want to punch on, I don't know, let's take a little bit. So you have the ability to really create as many layers as you want with this, because these things will continue to work with each other. But wait. So when you use the water brush, one thing that's important is that when you go to clean it, get in the habit of cleaning it on your craft sheet or on your hand. Don't get in the habit of cleaning it onto a paper towel, because that's going to absorb the water out of the brush. It's not a water brush. Well, no, it's just, no, you'll never pull those out because they're synthetic, so they're not going to come out like a paintbrush. But if you wipe it on a paper towel, then it's just a dry brush. And when you're going to blend color, you won't have water, and then you'll be tempted to squeeze, and then you'll end up doing that, and that's not a good idea. So if you just do that, you're good to go. Right. That's what I'm saying. It's the first kind of habit you want to break yourself up. Yeah. Well, let's say we wanted to do a background. If I wanted to do a background on this, I've got a couple of options. I can go in with stain if I want. I want to do an all-over background. I can just dab some distress stain. Or I can take my marker and scribble it, or I can take my ink pad and press it down. This will allow me to go with my brush and just create a wash of color. Now what I love about this is that, remember, that ink is reactive, so look around where I colored the butterfly, like in the body, how that feathered out into my background. So you can still get some really cool effects, and then that, you just squeeze that, and that's just going to clean something. So far so good. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about using the markers a little bit different. We're going to actually use the markers to stamp.